We also have different optical films that we develop, different coatings that we develop, but then there's touch panels and cover glasses. So there's this huge stack of material, and we're just one section of it. What we found is that those interfacing layers where we know we have to work really closely with another partner, that's what we want to share as much as possible.
We live in a time where design and technology touch every aspect of our lives. But where did it all come from? Who designed it? How is it built and brought to market? What will it look like in a year? 2 years? 100 years? From the phones and smartwatches that help us in our day-to-day to the cutting-edge spaceships and 3D printers that are leading us into the future, modern design is constantly shaping the way we work, communicate, problem solve, and play. And every new design, big or small, starts with an idea and a bill of materials. I'm Magenta Strongheart, and this is The Bomb, where we talk to leading innovators in the tech world and celebrate the transformational power of design. Today, we're at our third and final part of our 3-part bonus series spanning the entire globe and every level of hardware innovation. We started in Bali at the Bali Fab Fest, then we went to SuperCon 6 right here in Los Angeles, and this week we're wrapping it up in Munich with the industry side of things at Electronica. With over 2,000 exhibitors from 48 countries and about 70,000 visitors, Electronica is the world's leading trade fair for electronics. While I was there in November, I spoke with 2 founders at different stages of their startup journeys about how they're using technology to help problem solve. Mike Casper, CEO and co-founder of AZUMO, a Chicago-based technology manufacturer pioneering energy-efficient LCD displays, and Matt Johnson, founder of Bare Conductive and LAIIR. Let's start with Mike Casper. Back in 2008, he and his 2 collaborators founded the company that would later become AZUMO, a display company that is revolutionizing the way screens are made. Their ultra-thin LCD 2.0 reflective technology enables high-performance displays with substantially less power. This energy-efficient piece of technology is not only ideal for a consumer market, but also for medical, industrial, and educational needs. What started as an attempt to put better logos under ice hockey rinks eventually became much more than that. By channeling natural light, AZUMO developed LCD 2.0, which uses reflective lighting technology rather than a backlit display, making it easier on our eyes, about 90% more energy efficient, and visible in sunlight. The simplest way to describe it is to imagine a Kindle and an iPad having a baby. I spoke with Mike about how AZUMO got started, what made them get involved in display technology, and how energy-efficient technology can truly be a matter of life and death. Here's our conversation. I don't know how much you can tell us about this, but in the kind of the product development process and discovering this technology that you guys have developed, when did you realize that was going to work, or was there like a kind of, magical serendipitous moment where it clicked, or, you accidentally, I'm just curious what that story was, if you're willing to share.
Yeah. So we were, this was again around 10 years ago when we made the final pivot to what we are today. And we knew we had something with this ultra thin lighting technology. Mm-hmm. And as we looked at where LEDs were going, they were just packing more light into a more efficient package with less energy consumption. We knew we were going to start hitting a threshold where the amount of light we could put into our material finally could unlock certain applications. We started actually with e-paper because at the time, ebooks didn't have lighting. You had to put a little snake light on top to shine down. And so we first started there. What we found out, though, is that our tech was much more suited for reflective LCD, which is similar to e-paper, but has a little bit more nuance with it, where it requires much more accurate lighting. And that's one of the benefits of our technology. So we pivoted there because e-paper was starting to get some lighting technology that worked. Reflective LCD, though, didn't have that solution. And we knew we were really the only ones in the world already with a pretty good history of patents that we had filed and had granted. So that was right the pivot point where we realized where the LCD industry was heading. There was no technical solution out there. We had a really strong patent portfolio to build off of. And with the trends of, energy savings and everything moving to battery, we knew this was going to be something in the future.
Absolutely. So speaking of patent portfolio, that's always a really interesting, I think, kind of topic of discussion, especially we have a lot of open source community members, and, we talk a lot on the BOM about kind of the advantages and disadvantages of sharing certain aspects of technology, of process, of business building, really anything, right? Like we think about open source, not just the code that goes into something,
Sure.
but open source kind of mentality. And you see me honestly in this conversation, right? Like very open about what you all are doing. And I think that a big part of current, even just the way the world works with social media and everything, you do have to put a lot of stuff out there. So how do you balance that with your, needing to keep things kind of locked in, of course, for the patents, for your technology to stay secure, but also to be able to share and, move forward in your business and sharing the innovations that you guys are coming up with the world?
Yeah, it's always a tough balance, that's for sure. Because as you pointed out, I mean, any new tech that you're developing, you have to make the world aware of it, because that's how you're going to get customers and integration and all that. It's that fine line of figuring out, like you said, what do you share? What do you don't share? What we've found is that the best interface really is at that point where your technology or your product does need to integrate with something else. And so for our technology, for example, we have LCDs as part of it, which we have partners to make because we don't manufacture LCDs. We also have different optical films that we develop, different coatings that we develop. But then there's touch panels and cover glasses. So there's this huge stack of material, and we're just one section of it. What we found is that those interfacing layers where we know we have to work really closely with another partner, that's what we want to share as much as possible and make it as easy as possible for them to integrate our tech. Everything on the inside, though, the black box, if you will, is what we keep secret. Patents obviously protect us for so far, but there's also a lot of trade secrets that we just have to teach our team not to share. Because at the end of the day, we're still a business, we still have investors, and we want to protect our core assets.
Right. And this is truly like, original inventive technology that you're working with. We also talk a lot about that with some of our guests. There's kind of a fine line of something new, truly like new, that you have to, protect versus iterating off of, things that already exist or a new version of something, right? Can you tell us a little bit about, I think for a lot of people, the patent process sounds really intimidating and overwhelming. And I'm curious, when you first started filing patents, how did you navigate that? What was it like? Was it challenging, or was it, did you have good mentors or something that were able to walk you through this? How did that go? Yeah,
very overwhelming right from the beginning. And that was the key is finding that good group of network, that good group of mentors, investors, partners. I mean, right. That's the great thing about the entrepreneurial ecosystem is everybody wants to help each other out. And so we found that tapping early on, everything from our CTO's advisor from the university, they had filed a lot of patents from an academic perspective. So getting his advice and some other suggestions of lawyers that we could go to, we found through our investor network, there was a patent agent that had just started his own consulting firm. And so we reached out to him and we ended up hiring him basically as a full-time consultant to help us with our patent portfolio process. So a lot of it was just networking, tapping into the resources in the community to really help each other out. And we tried to do the same thing to pay it forward with other entrepreneurs that need some help.
That's awesome. Full circle.
Yes.
Yeah. And being part of, I think, a university atmosphere at that time is so amazing. So many resources that you can tap into, like you said. We had an event a while back at Design Lab where we were speaking with one of the congresswomen at the time about kind of the copyright and patent processes and things like that, and how a lot of it is a little antiquated. Like, how do you feel about, I honestly am not super involved in that world. So I'm curious, like, has it improved much in your, the 10 years that you've been focused on this mostly, or, beyond? Or do you think there's what are the areas you think they could really improve with that process?
Yeah, it seems like the just sheer volume of patents that are being applied has grown exponentially.
Right. That's something we talked about with startup, culture evolving and becoming so popular in the last 20 years, right? Like they're just overwhelmed and can't keep up in a way the systems can't keep up with.
Exactly. So I think that's the problem is the volume's gone up, but the individuals and the systems that are processing it haven't really grown at the same proportion. And so I think the system's just getting overwhelmed, and they're either getting backlogged, so schedules are longer, costs are going up, or they're pushing through things that in the end maybe aren't patentable. That could come back to bite people later if they found out they're infringing someone, or if they didn't do enough diligence ahead of time. So there's definitely a lot of room for opportunity. I just don't know if there's a good solution out there yet.
Yeah, definitely. Who's going to jump in and take that on?
Right.
You said, so it's been about 10 years since you guys have landed on the current technology really that you've developed. And how big is your company now?
So we're about 40 people.
Okay.
Our headquarters is in Chicago, where we have most of our staff. We did open an office in China last year. So we've got 4 team members there. Just opened a sales office in Japan this summer. So starting to grow internationally, but our core headquarters is in Chicago.
Awesome. And what do you appreciate about being in Chicago?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in the Midwest, so the Midwestern values definitely resonate with me. I think the great thing that we've seen with our team too, and just the ecosystem, is so unique from a manufacturing standpoint. I mean, hard tech, right? A lot of the manufacturing base in the Midwest is there. So it just gives us a lot of options for suppliers. And especially as a startup in our earlier years, yes, we got the tech to work in our lab, but then we needed to take it to the next stage and really get to pilot scale without having the money to invest in this equipment. And so we had to find manufacturing partners that were willing to work with a smaller company and kind of help us figure things out. We didn't have the exact solution right away. And so being in the Midwest and that manufacturing mentality and a lot of the technology there, I think really helped us get to that next stage, where today now we do have our own manufacturing equipment and it's placed in the Midwest.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I think it makes such a difference if during that prototyping phase, you can have access to some of those tools just nearby.
Yes.
Obviously, I'm biased. That's what Design Lab is all about. But
yes.
Even, I remember being in school in Chicago, actually, and at SAIC and having access to local experts in the industry, in the different manufacturing fields. I ended up working a lot with metal casting, and I was more interested in furniture at the time. But the history there in manufacturing is just incredible. And so being able to tap into that, and the years of experience that people have, it's you can just feel it when you're talking to folks in the factories and things, and in the manufacturer studios and all of that. That's
why I think the blend too of the new technology, the digital era of manufacturing, and combining that with the history and the experience level is really where some new innovations in manufacturing can happen. So a lot going on in the Midwest that I think can benefit from a lot of companies.
Absolutely. What kind of tools do you guys have in your own prototyping facility? I'm curious.
A lot of stuff. Yes, we over the years, and that's one thing we wish we had. Maker spaces like there are today, and like what you guys are doing, that would have been so powerful in the early days. So a lot of times we had to go find third parties that could just do a little bit here and there. We started acquiring small equipment along the way, and we've got a fantastic lab now. So between half dozen 3D printers of all different shapes and sizes, we've got a micro mill that we can do some like pre-injection molding work ourselves. A full machine shop. We've got a clean room with all of our film lamination and optical sensors in there. Full metrology lab with some really high powerful microscopes.
Wow, yeah.
So
because you guys are doing
cool
optical, optical materials and things. That's really cool. I'm like, we have to go by there, maybe schedule a detour.
Definitely.
That would be great.
Yes, once we get in our new office, the new silence spot, you'll like that. Yes.
Great. I'm like, there's part 2 and 3 to this interview. We're already scheduling it. Awesome. Yeah, and that's another thing I feel like in the Midwest is that you can really spread out. Like you can have space. It sounds like this must be a pretty extensive, facility.
Yes.
So that's really great too, and something I definitely miss. So it sounds like I would think this already kind of answers the question I'm about to ask, but I think you can elaborate. I remember in some of my research I was doing about you and AZUMO that, you mentioned the importance of play in kind of, invention and innovation and developing new ideas and that sort of thing. And just, I think in general for balance in life, probably. Yeah. But I'm sure that having this facility really helps keep your team creative and that sort of thing. What other ways do you feel like you kind of institute play play in your company culture and give folks the opportunity to have that time?
Yeah, no, I think it's so important, especially because we're working on, and many people are working on really hard challenges that haven't been solved before. You need that space in your brain to break away every once in a while and create that free space. And so, everybody's got their own definition of play, and even in our team, the diversity of what people consider fun, I think is the coolest part. So, one, that's just one of the things we hire for in our culture, is people that are open, and that can laugh yet still work really, really hard. There's some people that are, do basketball at lunchtime. Some people might have their video games that they're playing with other team members. It's really more about that culture of an openness to explore it and have fun. We've got a good holiday party coming up now that we can start doing that again too. So
we also have one coming up.
Yes. But I think the one thing I'm most proudest of is we redid our company values recently, and I wanted to read it directly here because I do think it's so cool. And so the team got together, and we pretty much had over several sessions talked about like what is the team's values, what are we when we all look at what we do here, and we boil it down to three things: we are pioneers, we are customer centric, and we are passionate. And the passionate one, what we came up with was we're focused and upbeat, driving to results quickly. Our team is excited about the work we do, finds ways to have fun while doing it, and strives for ways to be and do better. So that kind of came out through our exploration as a team. And I think that just really, resonates with having fun yet working hard.
Absolutely. Work hard, play hard.
Exactly.
We can also relate. That's a big part of, I would say, our company culture as well. And like you said, just gives that space to come up with new ideas, get a little time away from the really tough challenges, and then you come back kind of fresh and ready to go when you're back. So absolutely. I think, yeah. I think that makes sense for sure. Can you tell us a little more in depth about AZUMO's offerings and your products that you guys have on the market these days?
Yeah, so we have a standard portfolio of LCD 2.0 modules that are now available, sold through DigiKey for those that are looking for parts immediately. We also have some pretty cool dev kits that we developed that make it super simple for engineers to plug right into and to start dropping graphics right on the display. One thing we found learning in the display industry is that LCD components, they're available all over the place, but to actually drive them and to get the software going in order to get images on the screen, it's really hard, and there's not very many resources out there. So we built that all into a dev kit. So for engineers that are looking to get something really quick as they're building out products, we've got these dev kits available in all shapes and sizes.
That's really incredible. I'm like literally on that project that I was talking about earlier, where we were trying to figure out the different screens, that would have been so clutch for that sort of thing. Because that is a tricky part, like you said, is driving it and having the right software to go with it, especially when you're in the prototyping phase.
Exactly. So that's currently available. And then one thing that's coming out soon is, and one of the reasons we're here at Electronica, is promoting some of our automotive applications. One of the things that are a little bit outside of displays that we found a unique fit with our technology is our thin film illumination. And so starting to embed our light into surfaces inside the vehicle, inside and outside.
Fully integrated.
Exactly. Especially with the EV trends and the autonomous vehicle trends. There's a lot of opportunity, we think, for our tech there. And we're having a lot of good meetings this week.
That's awesome. That's super exciting. And also, I can imagine there might be a runway in the future into also like home applications or building applications. One of our other guests he's going to be like a monthly co-host moving forward is the designer of our offices and design lab actually back in California, Corey Grosser. But he was talking about how, surfaces in both like commercial and home kind of spaces are going to become more and more, smart and adaptive and interactive. So I can imagine that's also going to be a huge opportunity in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Smart, invisible surfaces. That's what we can deliver on.
Kind of mind blowing to imagine what the future holds there. So last but not least, I think we'll just wrap it up with our finale question that we ask all of our guests. What's on your personal bill of materials?
Yes. No, I love that question. I think for me, it's a balance of a sound mind, sound body, and a sound spirit, surrounded by a community, a supportive community, and maybe a little bit of beer here and there gets mixed in. That's
awesome. Well, that's appropriate. We're here in Germany. Just ended on that note. A little beer never hurts anybody. So thank you so much, Mike, for the time and for joining us today. Great to learn more about AZUMO, and I'm sure we're going to continue the conversation in the future.
Yes, looking forward to it.
Matt Johnson, founder of Bare Conductive and its sister company LAIIR, is working toward building a world where any ordinary surface can be transformed into something extraordinary. Bare Conductive is the more playful idea. It provides affordable tools and materials to create interactive projects and conductive paint and hardware that has touch and touchless sensors. LAIIR, on the other hand, uses the same principles to address sustainability by turning any surface into a sensor that can detect and even predict costly building maintenance needs. I talked with Matt about how Bare Conductive led to LAIIR, how unmonitored water leakage can cause long-term damage, and the role he plays with both companies. Here's our conversation. How do you feel about kind of being here, and like, why is it important? Why did you want to be at Electronica? Why is it important for this phase in LAIIR specifically? You know, you talked about it's very early, still early stages of the company and you all developing your solutions. Love to hear more about that.
Yeah, definitely. So a couple of nights ago, I saw Steve Wozniak speak, which was really a privilege. And he talked about how you figure out what the future is about really looking at the user, at the end user. And he's really talking about the ultimate user of the technology. You know, what are they doing and what are their preferences? What do they care about? He helped articulate something that I've thought about for a while, which is that in big organizations, the technology decisions are not made by presidents and VPs. They're made by people who are engineers or designers who are really implementing things. And then those people advocate to VPs and presidents saying, hey, you know what? I found this new sensor. I found this new microcontroller. You know, it's exactly what we need. It fits the specification. And so they are a route for a technology provider into a big opportunity. A big corporate can feel like a walled castle. And if you do a good job building a community, you don't even have to climb the wall because you can get a friend on the inside who will just open the gate and walk you in. And the reason we're at Electronica is that though there are a lot of VPs and presidents and CEOs here, there also are tons and tons of engineers and developers and designers who are walking around looking for interesting innovations. And so as much as I want a CEO of a Fortune 100 company to come talk to me about what we're doing, actually, I'd prefer the conversation with their most trusted engineer to come and talk at a technical level about what we can do and where the opportunities are, because I know that that person will take me into their organization and be my internal advocate. And so that's why we're at Electronica.
Makes total sense. That's really well put. I think that, like you said, that's maybe not what everybody expects or understands about how solutions are implemented internally, right? And of course, it's going to be the kind of people that are responding to feedback from the customer, from the user base, and what's the best way to fix that problem that they're dealing with, what's the best innovation, the technology that they can use for that. Absolutely. And so what's kind of on the horizon for Bare Conductive and for LAIIR? You said a little bit about what kind of the, I think, ultimate goals of LAIIR is to be integrated into these industrial products, right? For building maintenance and into some of the, would that be, I'm assuming, but I guess I shouldn't assume, I should just ask because I have you here. It would be partnerships integrating it into the manufacturing of those products, right? You wouldn't be wanting to manufacture those products themselves.
Yeah, exactly. A shorthand way of thinking about it is we're interested in anyone who's producing a building material on a roll.
This is so awesome because I feel like we need to find the soundbite from you saying, you said something like this at CES when we were talking about smart materials.
Okay, yeah.
Literally, I remember the role. I'm going to have to go find it, that clip, because that would be an awesome, like, full circle side by side. And I think we were talking about, it was when we were talking with 3M and tapes and, you know, smart kind of tape things. Totally. I can't remember exactly what else we said in that moment, but that's so awesome to just hear it come, you know?
Yeah, totally. And actually the most satisfying thing that's happened to me this year is that we've had inbound totally unsolicited inbound from companies that are manufacturing building materials on a roll, asking whether our sensors are appropriate for incorporation into their products. And it's not something that we are. It's not that ambition isn't something that
you are
hide.
advertising necessarily.
Yeah, but we don't advertise actively for it because it's a big concept. That shows me that in 2017, 2018, whenever we talked at CES, that vague vision is truly coming to life when you have a large manufacturer approaching you and saying, is this possible?
Yeah.
That's
we have set the stage perfectly.
Totally. And so, what we refer to it as, is that we want to be the Intel inside of a smart building, right? So we really want to be the ingredient brand in the building itself. So in the structure of the building, because there are so many costly events or potentially costly events and so many efficiency so much efficiency that can be gained by making the skin of the building smart. So it's not just about water leaks. That's the first thing. The roadmap has other things in it, like non-contact liquid level sensing and flow monitoring and pipes, occupancy sensing and floors. There are a huge amount of functionalities we can put into that smart skin concept, which we have already demonstrated in the lab and in small pilots. And it's just about ordering their delivery into the market appropriately.
What does the support look like for products like this, where I'm imagining that there's going to have to be some maintenance and a lot of, more kind of technical maintenance beyond what people might, like contractors and people building these buildings are used to doing, right? So is that going to be all part of LAIIR, or are there third parties that can sort of support that, or how are you guys thinking about the support aspect?
Sure. So, we're going through a couple of different stages simultaneously, and I think it's probably easiest to talk about the retrofit products that we have today, which we kind of call the sticker stage of the company.
Yeah.
Alongside of that, we have the OEM stage where we're building it into the roof, but the sticker stage is a really good way to view this. So most of our customers will install the devices themselves. So it's a roll of tape, you stick it on the ground, you connect a piece of hardware. We use LoRaWAN to get that data off into the cloud. Depending on the circumstance, we will have either supplied them with a gateway that requires setup, or they already have an existing network.
Okay.
So it's a pretty straightforward installation that I could show you how to do in a few minutes. That can be done by the customer, but we're also working with a network of installers that could install on our behalf. So there are some customers where they don't have the staff to install. They literally don't have the people. They don't feel that they have the technical competence. So we're very excited to get installers on board to help us do that. From a maintenance perspective, so let's say we've detected a water leak, who shuts off the valve? Right now, we're really focused on commercial properties and schools, and there it's the responsibility of the facilities manager. And the nuance is that facilities managers understand their buildings extremely well. Every building is a prototype. Every building is different. They all have weird quirks and problems.
Right.
And so we empower them to make really specific choices to respond to events, as opposed to using something like an immediate shutoff valve. Right?
Some sort of automated system.
Yeah. And that might be appropriate for homes, but for commercial spaces, it's not appropriate. Or at least it's not appropriate to automate it. So we have facilities managers who will receive an alert that there's a leak. They might go first investigate the scale of the leak before making a decision to then automatically shut off a valve, because they don't want to have a system without any possible interventions in it.
Yeah.
In terms of the long-term maintenance of the product, the printed sensor is incredibly robust because it's a solid state thing. It has no moving parts. It's a very chemically stable device. It's a mechanically strong device. So its lifetime is very long, which also gives us a really good advantage in the marketplace.
Absolutely. Yeah, you don't have to worry too much about like degradation.
No.
Okay. Nice. That's what I was curious about. I'm kind of also like, I think whenever I think about wearables especially and that sort of thing, and new technology that's being used to make wearables more seamless, more possible, that whatnot. Like I'm always wondering, okay, but how are, the average user going to maintain that wash it, all these different
Totally.
things. So it sounds like you guys have thought about all this, of course, and you're like, it's going to last forever anyways.
Well, we're very mindful of the context that we operate in because, we're working with people who are pretty conservative, right? You have a large, expensive asset that you need to last for a long time.
And it's a very kind of traditional industry, I would think.
In very traditional industries. And so we have to give them a lot of confidence and demonstrate that with data. And so we often get questions about, can the sensors operate outside? Can we put the sensor on a pipe that is buried? Is another use case we get asked about. And technically, yes, we can respond to both those use cases, but we're going to walk into those really carefully because we want to make sure that we give the best possible experience and really demonstrate the robustness. The Bare Conductive customer, even in a professional setting, is attuned to a very rapid development cycle and a lot of iterations, which can lead to unexpected results, which is the whole point of that quick, innovative development. Whereas on the LAIIR side, people don't want unexpected results. They want consistency, ease of installation. And so we have to make sure that we translate that really well.
Absolutely. And then on the software side, what is kind of the offering that goes with LAIIR?
Yeah, so most of our customers are integrating the data that we produce into a building management system. And so what we do is we transmit from our end node in LoRaWAN speak, that's the nomenclature, to a gateway. And then that takes the data to the cloud. So within the LAIIR cloud, we can integrate with Azure's IoT Central and IoT Hub. We also can host the data on AWS. And then there's a bunch of common protocols like MQTT, which are used to integrate data with other systems. We also provide a dashboard and alerts, which is just a useful way to see that the products are functioning and understand their function. But as somebody who's buying enterprise software, I recognize that we want to have as few tabs open on our browser as possible and as few dashboards to look at as possible. So, our roadmap is really about providing a better and better API so that customers can integrate.
That it can integrate so well.
Yeah,
absolutely. No, that makes a lot of sense. Very cool. Well, I'm so excited to learn more about LAIIR. Like, I really feel like I understand it now.
Yeah, well, I'm very happy to tell you about it. And I think few people actually appreciate the transition from Bare Conductive to LAIIR. I think they both were created by an amazing team of people, but I definitely see at least some of my personality reflected in both of the brands, which is that Bare is continuing to grow off of its open, empowering, playful nature. But don't misunderstand that playful can't also be deeply technical and useful, because that's very much my belief that you should enjoy what you're doing, even if you're doing it about a deadly serious thing. Whereas LAIIR is a much more intentionally mature thing that's designed to make a really specific impact. So I love seeing both of those things flourish.
Yeah, absolutely. I can also see kind of the different aspects of Matt Johnson in these different companies. And it's nice just to see also how they complement each other. And I think how it's probably been a really exciting, I would imagine, transition and journey to focus on a different aspect of what you're passionate about, and find this very niche but technical, and like you said, has to be really robust, highly reliable. Like, these are in a way different and new challenges that you get to focus on. That's probably refreshing, I would think, after spending so much time on Bare Conductive as well.
Totally. It is really fun to have new challenges to work on with the experience that we've gained from Bare.
I was wondering how you guys handle the kind of wrong maybe users is one way to put it, but the people that aren't necessarily focused on building maintenance, preventative maintenance. Are you getting any requests or customers that are integrating this more in just like, I'm imagining, surfaces for design in home interiors or something like that? Or is it not at the place right now where those folks are really seeing it? I would imagine people that are keeping up with, your Bare Conductive fans are keeping up with what's happening with LAIIR and like, how do I get my hands on that, even if they're not working in the, the context that you guys are focused on?
We definitely get a lot of inbound about use cases that we don't expect or haven't intentionally marketed for. I think the biggest strategic shift between Bare and LAIIR is that Bare Conductive was all about empowerment. So, I am explicitly saying, Magenta, I want you to take the technology and figure out something.
Do what you want.
Yeah. And we refer to them as pros. Our pros are people who come up with a use case that we've never seen before. And we love that. LAIIR's strategic intent is to define a limited set of use cases in which we can scale. So it doesn't mean that we ignore inquiries that don't fit that model. We definitely write everything down because we're very cognizant that, Magenta, the engineer, might deliver us a use case that we didn't expect that's adjacent to leak sensing that might be absolutely killer.
Right.
And so we need to really pay attention to that.
It might be a lead one day. Yeah.
Yeah. But we have to have the discipline of having a very tight product. And I think about it like an hourglass. We launched LAIIR in May of 2021, and we spent 6 months really researching and understanding what the use cases looked like. And we ended up with water leaks. And now we're in the middle of the water glass where, we're only focused on leaks, and we repeat that every day. It's all about water leak detection and cost mitigation. But while doing that, we're filling up a database of ideas and analysis of where the bottom of that hourglass could expand out to. And really, we just need to create enough acceleration that we can expand effectively.
Absolutely. So this might be, we warned you about this question before, but what were some of the challenges developing a hardware product during 2021? Well, I think many of the folks in this industry can imagine, but break it down for us.
Yeah, so we were hit by two sets of challenges. So we have the printed sensor, and then we have the electronic hardware. On the printed sensor side, we definitely suffered from factory shutdowns. So printing facilities shutting down because people either have COVID or because of a COVID restriction, and then also raw materials shortages. So that was definitely required developing some partnerships that gave us insight into what stock levels would look like and how we could mitigate that. On the hardware front, we are in the same bucket as everyone else, and that we've been saddled with 52-week lead times and have to do really fast redesigns. Have to, have a lot more redundancy in our BOM than we previously would have considered. But I maybe this is too optimistic, but I think actually it's made us much more precise because previously there was a glut of components. And so we could design with less, we were designing with less intention often around, what is the value we're driving? What's the use case? Now, we have to be extremely precise for fear that, if we're flippant, we might end up not being able to manufacture. So I think it's taught us a ton of discipline, which is actually very useful.
Right. And will pay off for years and decades to come.
Yeah.
Of course. All right. So our finale question, which we ask all of our guests, is what is on your personal bill of materials? What keeps Matt Johnson going?
Okay. What does keep Matt Johnson going?
Or, as we mentioned, you can interpret it in a number of ways.
No, it's a good question. I'm pausing to
you can think about it.
To be accurate and really think about what the answer is. So the first thing that comes to my mind, and which is definitely true, is running. So I hated running when I was a teenager, and now it's my absolute favorite athletic activity and a hugely important part of my life. And I think that I hated it as a teenager because I didn't have enough to think about. And when you go on a really long run, I don't listen to music. I don't listen to podcasts. It's just me and my own head and the environment. And now I have plenty to think about. And so running is a really important activity for me to process internally, but also to just disconnect a bit and experience the environment. So that's something that I really love. I really love distance running. And I think the other thing is any sort of mechanical project. I absolutely love working on my car, on my motorcycle. That is a very calming activity. So both of those things are really important things that I do for myself. But then I think externally, I've extremely proud father of a 9-month-old. And yeah, there's nothing, I've never experienced something so amazing as spending time with a child as they begin to understand the world. And that I just relish. It's fantastic. I had no idea how transformative it would be. So it was probably the top 3 things in my bomb. And I also tend to eat every day.
Eating is important. We can all relate to that one, definitely. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm thinking about all the things you just said, and the running without listening to music and that sort of thing. I'm like, I need to try that. Or working out without, like, I'm always listening to music or podcasts. And I can imagine, I'm like thinking about how when I go to sleep, that's when I can't stop thinking. Like, I think it's probably when I'm like quiet and there's nothing going on. And so I turn all that stuff off, and then all the thoughts come, right? And you can't fall asleep. Has that helped you if you're allowing this, like the time when you're working on projects or running, or, is your thinking opportunity, have you noticed it helps you sleep better?
It's definitely an intentional, going on a long run without music is an intentionally reflective time. And so then that means you're doing it then, and you're not doing it right before you go to sleep. But I also think from an athletic perspective, it forces you to find the motivation internally rather than externally. So listening to a song with a really strong, fast beat is great external motivation. But how can you run at the same pace or work out with the same intensity with an internal motivation? It's much harder, but it also doesn't run out of batteries.
Totally.
So that's very valuable.
Absolutely. No, thank you for that. And then my last question to follow up about, being a new father and being an entrepreneur, do you have to constantly stop yourself from being like, I could come up with a product for this? What's going on right now?
Actually, that's an interesting question. No one has asked me that. Okay. I think I take a pretty minimalist approach to parenting and the stuff associated with it, because I have a very personal belief that we can quickly become victims of our own stuff. And so one of the things I've reflected on a lot to give me confidence in this crazy time of early parenthood is that people were doing this successfully long before we even had the ability to articulate that we needed more stuff. And so actually it's quite the opposite. It's like, you know what? How do I do this? I am one in a long line of many, 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 many people who have done this without a gadget. And I love participating in that common human experience, even if it means somebody throws up on me occasionally.
That's awesome. Minimalist parenthood. Is that that's a thing I haven't actually really heard of. I'm kind of surprised.
Maybe it's a thing. I haven't even bothered to Google it, but yeah.
You need to start a publication around this. That's the product. No, just kidding. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Matt. It was great to catch up with you as always, and excited to check out more about LAIIR in the future and see what's to come.
Likewise. Thank you for having me at your fantastic stand at Electronica 2022.
Thank you so much to Mike Casper and Matt Johnson for speaking with us at Electronica, and thank you for listening to this special bonus episode of The Bomb. We'll link AZUMO, Bare Conductive, and LAIIR in the show notes. Amazing solutions to make tech more energy efficient are out there, and I hope you're all as excited by it as I am. We'll see you next year for brand new episodes of The Bomb. If you like The Bomb, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and share the show wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow SupplyFrame and Hackaday on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube, and Design Lab at SupplyFrame Design Lab on Instagram and Twitter. The Bomb is a SupplyFrame podcast written, produced, and edited by Frank Driscoll and co-edited by Daniel Ferreira. Executive producers are Ryan Tillotson and Tyler Nielsen. Theme music is by Anna Hogben with show art by Thomas Schneider. Special thanks to Giovanni Salinas, Bruce Dominguez, Thomas Woodward, Jin Kumar, Jordan Clark, Matt Gunn, the entire SupplyFrame team, and you, our wonderful listeners. I'm your host, Magenta Strongheart.